Chapter 5194 The herd mentality. Yuan Guang's eyes lit up when he heard Master Defang's words. He shouted, "Lonesome, Master Defang is right. You must let most people see the lotus. Otherwise, it doesn't count." Yun Chujiu ignored him when she heard that. She looked at Master Defang and smiled without saying anything. Although her smile was innocent and harmless, it made Master Defang panic. Just when Master Defang was panicking, he heard Yun Chujiu ask with a smile, "Master Defang, did you see the Buddha lotus?" Master Defang's pupils constricted. Of course, he didn't see it. However, if he said he didn't see it, didn't it mean that he had no wisdom root? Where would his face be? If he said he saw it, it would be very disadvantageous to the bitter Zen sect and Yuan Guang. Seriously, he was worried to death. At this time, Yuan Guang shouted, "Master Defang, you didn't see it either, did you?" This loan is deliberately mystifying things. In fact, he didn't release the Buddha lotus at all. The fragrance of the lotus must have been forged by him using medicinal pills. Master Defang was in a dilemma, so he simply didn't say anything. However, Yuan Guang didn't give up and continued to ask, "Master Defang, say something. Did you not see it either?" Master Defang wished he could shut his mouth. What an idiot! Fortunately, he thought of an excuse and said, "Lonesome, it doesn't matter if I saw it or not. The key is that you have to let the majority of the people present see it." Yun Chujiu nodded and looked at the crowd. Not everyone has a wisdom root, so it's not strange that some people can't see lotus. Which one of you didn't see lotus? Raise her hand. The crowd below the competition stage looked at each other. No one wanted to admit that they didn't have a wisdom root, so only a few people raised their hands. Yuan Guang saw this and shouted angrily, "Why didn't you raise your hands? You clearly didn't see anything. Don't tell me you really believe the words of a wisdom root. You're really stupid to actually be fooled by this lonely lie." Some people were still hesitating, but after hearing Yuan Guang's words, they immediately gave up the idea of raising their hands. Who the fuck is stupid? You are the most stupid. Master Defang was speechless. Who is this Yuan Guang? Yun Chujiu curled the corners of her mouth slightly. People have vanity and herd mentality. Although she didn't see anything, she was unwilling to admit it. "Master Defang, did you see it?" Most of the people had seen the lotus. Moreover, the lotus released by this penniless monk was not only extremely realistic, but also fragrant. It was clear who won and who lost at a glance. "Can you announce the result of the competition?" Master Defang's face was a little stiff. Except for the people from the bitter Zen sect who raised their hands, everyone else had basically tacitly acknowledged that they had seen the lotus. Could it be that this lone had really released the lotus? The reason why he did not see it was because he did not have a wisdom root? Just as he was about to announce the results of the competition, Xian Hui said angrily, "Our bitter Zen sect did not see a single person. Could it be that the people from our bitter Zen sect do not have a wisdom root?" Lone did not release anything. His little trick can only make an ignorant fool. Therefore, the winner of this competition should be Yuan Guang. The spectators, who were called idiots, were naturally not happy. They immediately began to clamor in dissatisfaction. Seeing this, Xian Hui shouted, "All of you shut up, or don't blame this old monk for being impolite." Xian Hui's shout contained Buddhist power. As a result, it shocked everyone until their scalps went numb. Everyone was embarrassed and did not say a word. Chapter 5195 Buddha Yuan Guang had Xian Hui's support, so he immediately felt confident. He sneered at Yun Chujiu and said, "Lonesome, you heard it, right? Your little tricks are useless. You're the one who lost." Seeing that the people of the bitter Zen sect admitted that they didn't see Buddha lotus, Master Defang also echoed, "That's right. I didn't see Buddha lotus either. Lonesome, you can't count this." Master Liaowu and the others wanted to object, but they did not see it. Not raising their hands just now had already reached the bottom line of their morals. Now, they could not open their eyes and lie. Only Ji Su covered his butt and shouted, "Nonsense! I saw Buddha lotus and it was golden." He hated Yuan Guang and the Zen of bitterness to death. If he had not stumbled and fell, it would not only be an injury to his butt, but also his life. Right now, he didn't care about the commandment of monks not to lie. He wished he could just kill Yuan Guang. Yuan Guang said disdainfully, "Golden? What a joke. Golden Lotus is a legendary existence. Don't tell me you think yellow is golden? Besides, loneliness didn't release anything at all. How could you see it? Did you hallucinate after being hurt by me?" Ha! Jisoo had just mentioned the Golden Lotus as a passing remark. Now that Yuan Guang had rebuked him, he couldn't help but be angry and didn't know how to retort. At this moment, Yun Chujio said calmly, "Yuan Guang, don't be so full of yourself. If it really is the Golden Lotus, what will you do?" Yuan Guang was stunned at first, then he laughed out loud. "Lonesome, are you talking nonsense? If you can release the Golden Lotus, I will be at your disposal. I have no objections." Yun Chujio raised her eyebrows slightly. "Are you serious?" "Of course I am," Yuan Guang said casually. The reason why he was so sure was that even Master Xuanji was only at the 6th level of the Red Lotus. Even Master Xuanji could not release the Golden Lotus, let alone Lonesome. Yun Chujio smiled faintly. "Not only can this penniless monk release the Golden Lotus, but I can also turn it into a physical object." Yuan Guang laughed even more savagely when he heard that. "Lonesome, it seems that you are seriously ill. Your Buddha energy cannot turn into a physical object at all. Furthermore, do you know that the Buddha lotus, as the only Buddha plant in the world, has long been extinct? If you can turn it into a physical object, you must be Buddha." Yun Chujio pressed her palms together. "Amitba. Although this penniless monk is not the Buddha, I am the reincarnation of a Buddha." As soon as Yun Chujio said that, Master Liao almost jumped up from his seat. This troublemaker really dared to say that. Buddha? She was not even a monk, okay? The people of the Zen sect basically knew Yun Chujio's identity, so they were all shocked. Jisoo was so shocked that he sat on the ground and cried out in pain. The audience below the stage was stunned at first, then they started to talk about it. Did I hear wrong? Little Master Lonely said that he is the reincarnation of the Buddha? Is he kidding? Is this possible? How is it not possible? Little Master Lonely looks different from ordinary people, especially that pure and harmless temperament. I think it's more or less the same. You're judging people by their looks. The reincarnation of the son of Buddha is not just talk. He has to show proof. Chapter 5196 Buddha Lotus, Lonesome, you really dare to say that? The reincarnation of Buddha? Why don't you say that you are the reincarnation of Buddha? Aren't you afraid that the wind will hurt your tongue? Yuan Guang said sarcastically. Yun Chujio's expression was indifferent. Monks don't lie. I am only the reincarnation of Buddha, not the reincarnation of Buddha. Naturally, I won't say anything. The corners of the mouths of the Zen sect's people twitched violently. Just pretend. Don't lie. Your lies have no limits. Naturally, Yuan Guang did not believe Yun Chujio's words. The ridicule on his face became even more obvious. Since you said that you are the reincarnation of the Buddha, then you should condense the Buddha lotus physical body now. Otherwise, you are talking nonsense. Yun Chujio nodded. Of course, but don't forget what I said just now. If I can condense the Buddha lotus physical body, you are at my disposal. Yuan Guang snorted. Of course. After hearing Yuan Guang's words, Yun Chujio sat down cross-legged and began to knock the wooden fish. Yuan Guang pursed his lips and didn't say anything. He was sure that Yun Chujio was deliberately mystifying and would soon be exposed. Although Master Liao's expression was normal, he wanted to scold Yun Chujio in his heart. Wasn't this digging a hole for himself? Using Buddha's power to condense a Buddha lotus body? This was no different from a joke. If she could really do it, he would really take her, this fake monk, as his disciple. Soon, 15 minutes had passed. Yun Chujio was still knocking on the wooden fish and chanting the Lotus Flower Sutra. Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. Yuan Guang saw Yun Chujio's reaction and was even more certain that she was stalling for time. He urged her, Lonesome, if you still can't condense the Buddha energy into a Buddha lotus, you'll lose this round. Yun Chujio stopped striking the wooden fish and sighed. The longer I chant, the more Buddha lotuses I can condense. But you interrupted me, so I can only condense one. Moreover, such an opportunity is hard to come by. It seems that this is God's will. Yuan Guang shouted coldly, "Stop talking nonsense. Where is the lotus flower? Show us." Yun Chujio smiled faintly and waved her wide sleeves a few times. Then, a golden lotus flower appeared in her hand. Although the golden lotus flower was not big, everyone knew that it was the lotus flower. The reason was simple. The moment the golden lotus appeared, everyone felt extremely calm. If this was not a Buddha lotus, then what was it? Yuan Guang looked at the golden lotus in Yun Chujio's hand in disbelief. How is this possible? This must not be a Buddha lotus, it must be fake. Master Defang was standing behind the two of them. His old face was filled with excitement. Yuan Guang did not believe it, he believed it. Because he had read the records of the lotus in the ancient books. The lotus in Yun Chujio's hand was exactly the same as the one in the records. Moreover, the fragrance of concentration and tranquility could not be faked. Master Defang could not help but move closer and stared at the lotus in Yun Chujio's hand. Lotus, this is indeed a lotus. Amitabha, I actually saw a lotus in my lifetime. It is really the blessing of Buddha. Yun Chujio smiled slightly and actually handed the lotus flower in her hand to Master Defang. Master Defang, take a good look. Don't mistake it for something else. Master Defang received it in fear and trepidation. Then he stared at it without blinking. His face was full of infatuation. Chapter 5197 Yuan Guang committed suicide. Yuan Guang's expression was very interesting. There was disbelief, anger, and a bit of unwillingness. He gritted his teeth. Since Master Defang said that it was really a lotus, it was most likely true. He had to think of a way to destroy the lotus. Otherwise, not only would he lose face, but he would also lose this round. Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. Thinking of this, he took 2 steps forward and stretched out his hand to snatch the lotus from Master Defang's hand. Master Defang's attention was completely focused on the lotus. He was in a state of infatuation. When he felt the wind blowing, and it seemed like it came with ill intentions, he subconsciously waved his palm. Although Master Defang did not use his full strength, his cultivation was much higher than Yuan Guang's. In addition, Yuan Guang had never expected Master Defang to make a move, so his palm directly sent Yuan Guang flying. Yuan Guang was caught off guard and fell onto the competition stage. He was completely dumbfounded. This old Defang, was he old and stupid? He actually dared to hurt him? Just as he was angry, a thick stack of talismans smashed at him. He was completely unprepared. He did not even have the time to use his Buddha energy, so he was unlucky. Along with the sound of the talismans exploding, Yuan Guang screamed in pain. Yun Chujio threw the talisman onto Yuan Guang's body one by one. Anyway, she had many of these things. She would not let him die. Yuan Guang's scream finally woke up Master Defang, who was staring at the lotus infatuatedly. He quickly shouted, "Stop." Yun Chujio was also obedient and immediately stopped. Master Defang was about to say something, but he did not expect Yuan Guang, whose face was covered in blood, to say, "Amitabha. This penniless monk is disrespectful to the son of Buddha and has committed a grave sin. I will go to the Avicii purgatory to repent." As Yuan Guang said that, he actually slapped his own head. Instantly, his brain exploded. He actually died just like that. This unexpected turn of events shocked everyone. Oh my God! What the hell was going on? Why did that Yuan Guang suddenly commit suicide? Wasn't he quite arrogant before? Could it be that he had gone mad? Someone widened his eyes and said, "Wasn't Yuan Guang disrespectful to the son of Buddha and going to the Avicii purgatory to repent? Doesn't this mean that little Master Lonesome is really the reincarnation of the son of Buddha?" That makes sense. Also, Master Defang said that the lotus flower that Little Master Lonely condensed is a real Buddha lotus. Little Master Lonely must be the reincarnation of the son of Buddha. No wonder I felt that Little Master Lonely was different from others when I saw him. So he really is the son of Buddha. Master Liaowu was dumbfounded. Even though he had seen great storms, the scene in front of him still shocked him. However, he soon figured out the cause of Yuan Guang's death. It must be Buddha's candle's doing. Buddha's candle had liked to possess Zen sect disciples to do evil deeds. Just now, Yuan Guang was severely injured by Yun Chujia's talisman. It was the time when he was weak, and it was a good opportunity for Buddha's candle to strike. However, he really couldn't understand how Yun Chujio could condense the Buddha's lotus body. She didn't have Buddha power at all, and the Buddha lotus had long been extinct. How did she do it? However, Master Liaowu knew that the most important thing now was not this, but to protect Yun Chujia's life. That Xian Hui was unreasonable. Although it seemed that Yuan Guang had committed suicide, he was very likely to vent his anger on Yun Chujio. Therefore, Master Liaowu gave a look to Master Li. Master Li immediately understood. When Xian Hui approached the competition stage, he also jumped over. Xian Huizi was on the verge of tears. He was very concerned about Yuan Guang, this disciple of his. Now that Yuan Guang had died tragically on the stage, he naturally wouldn't let it go. Chapter 5198, Little Buddha of Loneliness. Xian Hui blamed Yun Chujio for Yuan Guang's death. She felt that it was definitely her doing. Thus, after jumping onto the stage, she released a red lotus flower in an attempt to kill Yun Chujio. However, before he could finish releasing the red lotus flower, he was interrupted by a Master Lei. Master Xian Hui, what do you mean? What does Yuan Guang's suicide have to do with loneliness? Furthermore, even if it has something to do with loneliness, this is also something that happened on the competition stage. Are you trying to be a scoundrel? Furthermore, Yuan Guang said earlier that if loneliness can condense a Buddha lotus and let him do whatever he wants, could it be that you can't afford to lose? Master Li sneered. He had not forgotten how Xian Hui looked when Yuan Guang ambushed Ji Su previously. Xian Hui's eyes were bloodshot. She was about to fight with a master, but was stopped by Master Li. Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. Although Xian Hui was unwilling, she did not dare to fall out with Master Xuanji. She had no choice but to get someone to carry Yuan Guang's body down. She gave Yun Chujio a cold look before leaving the stage. Yun Chujio looked at the stiff expression on Master Defang's face and said with a smile, Master Defang, can you return the lotus to this penniless monk? Master Defang felt as if he had a dog in his heart. Although Xian Hui did not do anything to him, she must have already hated him. If he had known that this would happen, he would not have insisted on looking at the Buddha lotus. In fact, Yuan Guang was not entirely right. The Buddha lotus was not the only Buddha plant. There were other Buddha plants in the world. For example, the Zen sect's glazed Bodhi tree was also a Buddha plant. There were also some rare Buddha plants that grew in places where people rarely visited. However, the lotus flower was very meaningful to those who believed in Buddhism, so the lotus flower was very precious. Master Defang's intestines were green with regret. However, there was no medicine for regret in this world. He definitely had reason to suspect that Lone had passed the lotus flower to him on purpose. If that was really the case, then Lone's thoughts were too meticulous. He had actually calculated the thoughts and reactions of him and Yuan Guang clearly. He was simply as wise as a demon. Yun Chujio ignored Master Defang's suspicious gaze. She took the lotus and said to the crowd below the stage, Amitba. Previously, this penniless monk said that I came here because I was enlightened by Buddha. Previously, it was not the right time, so this penniless monk did not say it out loud. Buddha entrusted a dream to this penniless monk and taught this penniless monk the divine ability to condense a Buddha lotus body. He ordered this penniless monk to boil water with a Buddha lotus and lead all living beings to salvation. This divine ability has many restrictions, and it wasn't easy to succeed once. Originally, this penniless monk planned to condense more Buddha lotus, but Yuan Guang interrupted me. Thus, this is the only one left. It's truly a great pity. Therefore, the effect of the water that everyone can drink will definitely be greatly reduced. This penniless monk really feels bad. Amitba, it's all this penniless monk's fault. When the crowd below the stage heard this, they were all extremely excited. Did they hear wrongly? This lonely little master, No, lonely little Buddha actually wanted to boil this extremely precious Buddha lotus into a water cloth and give it to them? Heavens! This was simply a great good thing. The fragrance of this Buddha lotus was so magical. After drinking it, it would definitely cure all diseases. Hence, someone shouted, "Lonely little Buddha, you don't have to blame yourself. If you want to blame someone, blame that Yuan Guang." If he hadn't interrupted your chanting, you might have been able to condense 10 or 8 Buddha lotuses. That's right. Yuan Guang's death is considered a great bargain for him. Otherwise, we would have strangled him to death. You're right. It's one thing for that idiot to seek his own death, but he actually implicated us. Even 100 deaths wouldn't be enough. Chapter 5199. Congratulations, you got it right. Xian Hui almost spat out a mouthful of blood when she heard the clamor of these people. However, the law did not punish the masses, so he could only focus his hatred on Yun Chujio. What kind of Buddha power condensed into a substance? This lone must have found a Buddha lotus from somewhere else, which was why he made such a fuss. Now, he was actually using it to buy people's hearts. She was willing to spend a lot of money, damn it. At this time, the little lonely Buddha, who had just come out of the oven on the stage, said with a compassionate face, "Everyone, don't be anxious. After today's competition is over, this penniless monk will distribute Buddha lotus water at the entrance of Buddha temple." The people below the stage naturally sang praises again, almost kowtowing in worship. The expressions of the Zen sect's people were very subtle. If they did not know that the little lonely Buddha on the stage was a fake, they might have believed it a little. If those onlookers knew that the lonely little Buddha who they praised was actually a little girl, would they go crazy? When Master Liaowu thought of this possibility, he couldn't help but shiver. He decided to hide the fact that Yun Chujio pretended to be lonely in his stomach. Otherwise, the gate of the Zen sect would be smashed by rotten eggs. On the stage, Hei Shinjio bought the hearts of the people and confirmed the title of Lonely Little Buddha. Just as she was about to jump off the stage with satisfaction, she saw a person jump up. Yun Chujio took a look and saw that it was a familiar face. It was the Yuan Ji who had been cheated by Yun Chujio's chicken or egg first. Yesterday, after Yuan Ji lost, he had been ridiculed by many people. Therefore, he hated Yun Chujio to death. However, this was not the main reason why he went on stage. The reason why he went on stage was because Yuan Guang was dead and Xian Hui would definitely take in another successor disciple. If he could kill Yun Chujio or seriously injure Yun Chujio, then Xian Hui would very likely take him in as a successor disciple. Yuan Ji stopped Yun Chujio and said with a fake smile, "Lone, you and Yuan Guang had a literary battle before. How about we have a martial battle?" Yun Chujio said calmly, "I'm not interested. Find someone else." "Humph. Are you afraid of losing?" Yuan Ji provoked. Yun Chujio nodded confidently. "Congratulations, you got it right." Yuan Ji, "Lone, you have to fight today. You have to fight even if you don't want to. Who asked you not to step down earlier? You're just unlucky." As Yuan Ji spoke, he did not release his Buddhist power. Instead, he directly threw a palm at Yun Chujio. After Yun Chujio dodged, her heart stirred and she said, "I can fight with you, but my Buddhist power is too pure. I'm afraid that I might accidentally take your life. How about this? We don't use Buddhist power. How about we only compete in movement techniques?" Yuan Ji was already a little afraid of Yun Chujio's Buddhist power. Yun Chujio's words were exactly what she wanted. He immediately said, "Sure, you do it." Ji Su, who was lying on his butt, almost laughed out loud. This Yuan Ji was really stupid. Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. The female devil was best at movement techniques. He was going to be unlucky. Sigh, it seemed that he had too many things to learn from the female devil. She had used 2 strategies in this sentence. One was to trap him, and the other was to use her own strengths to attack his weaknesses. She was simply too smart. He had a few thoughts in his mind before he looked at the competition stage. At this moment, Yun Chujio and Yuan Ji were already fighting. However, contrary to Ji Zu's expectations, Yun Chujio was actually at a disadvantage. Ji Su was stunned at first, then he thought to himself, TSK, the female devil's strategy at this moment was to deliberately mislead Yuan Ji. When Yuan Ji was careless, she would hit him with one strike. This female devil is really too bad. Chapter 5200 Transparent. Thinking of this, Ji Su was suddenly stunned. Why did he feel that he was smarter than before? Could it be because his butt was injured? So it was transparent? His butt was not his head, so it definitely was not because his butt was injured. Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. It was probably because he had experienced life and death, so he became more transparent. It seemed that this time, it was a blessing in disguise. Jisoo was right. Hei Shinjio on the stage did not use her full strength, so it seemed like she was at a disadvantage. The spectators below the stage were all burning with anxiety. They wished they could go up and help Yun Chujio kill Yuan Ji. The reason was simple. If lonely little Buddha was dead, who would give them Buddha lotus water? However, there was nothing they could do. They could not jump onto the competition stage to help. However, they felt that they could not do nothing. So, they stretched their necks and shouted, "Little Buddha Lonesome, we support you. You have to work harder and kill that guy who doesn't know goose and goose eggs." Yes, that guy. If you don't want to end up like Yuan Guang, you have to kneel down and admit your mistake. Otherwise, you won't have a good ending. That's right, you'd better admit your defeat. Otherwise, lonely little Buddha will use his strength and you'll die a miserable death. Yuan Ji was so angry when he heard these people's shouts that he was about to explode. Even though he wanted to be unaffected by these voices, he was still somewhat distracted. Yun Chujio narrowed her eyes. Now was the time. Yun Chujio's speed suddenly increased. In a flash, she had already appeared behind Yuan Ji and raised her right arm to slap Yuan Ji. Yuan Ji felt the chill behind his back. He was so scared that he hurriedly jumped forward. However, he was still one step too late. He was swept by the palm wind. Yuan Ji only felt a burning pain on his back. His chest felt a little stuffy. Before he had time to think, Yun Chujio's ghostly figure once again appeared behind him. She slapped him again. Yuan Ji hurriedly dodged again. The situation on the stage instantly reversed, and the spectators below the stage were all extremely excited. They felt that their shouting must have had an effect, so they shouted even more joyfully. Yuan Ji was forced to step back again and again. He accidentally fell off the stage, and then, he was beaten up by a group. To be precise, he was smashed by some miscellaneous items. What raw eggs, what rotten vegetables, and even a boot. Although Yuan Ji used his Buddhist power to protect himself, he was still in a sorry state. In addition, he had been swept by Yun Chujio's palm wind, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. Seeing this, the onlookers threw him even more joyfully. Yuan Ji finally returned to the bitter Zen sex stance with great difficulty, and then he fainted with a choking sound. Seeing this, Yun Chujio quickly jumped off the stage. She had won 2 matches in a row, and it was all due to opportunism. It was better to quit while the situation was good, or else she might be exposed. At this time, the big score was 5-3. The bitter Zen sect only needed to win one more round to win the second round. However, the sky had already turned dark. Master Defang had no choice but to announce that the competition would continue the next day. The spectators did not disperse. Instead, they crowded to the entrance of the Buddha temple and waited anxiously for the lonely little Buddha to give out the Buddha lotus water. Yun Chujio did not go back on her word. She immediately set up the big iron pot and began to boil the Buddha lotus water. Yun Chujio also discovered by accident that this big iron pot had an additional ability. Its capacity was comparable to a storage ring. It did not look too big, but it could hold a lot of ingredients. Just like at this moment, Yun Chujio had already added several buckets of mountain spring water into the big iron pot, but the big iron pot was still 80% full. Chapter 5201. Language barrier is a serious injury. After Yun Chujio added enough water, she began to pretend to recite the sutras. Then, under the pained gazes of Master Liaowu and the others, she placed the Buddha lotus into the big iron pot. As the big iron pot bubbled, the fragrance of the Buddha lotus spread out. In the past, Yun Chujio didn't take the Buddha lotus seriously. After all, she had obtained a lot of Buddha lotus in the fallen god abyss. But this time in the Buddhist scripture pavilion, she read some records about the Buddha lotus. Only then did she know that the Buddha lotus had been extinct for a long time. Moreover, it could be boiled and used as a gift. It was said that a long time ago, eminent monks would do this on special days. Therefore, it was beneficial to read more books. Master Liaowu and the others looked pained. It was simply a reckless waste of a heavenly gift. Such a precious lotus was just cooked? They made up their minds that later on, they would definitely drink a few more bowls of lotus water. After a quarter of an hour, Yun Chujio felt that it was about time. She scooped up a bowl of lotus water and respectfully handed it to Master Liaowu. "Master, after you." Master Liaowu was so moved that he almost cried. This troublemaker actually had such filial piety? It was really rare. At this time, he completely forgot how angry he was when Yun Chujio called him a closed-door disciple. He also forgot that the lonely little Buddha in front of him was actually a little girl. Master Liaowu used his Buddhist power to lower the temperature of the Buddha lotus water a little before he took a sip. Although it was not as magical as he imagined, there was a long aftertaste in his mouth, which was longer than any good tea leaves. When the crowd saw the expression of enjoyment on Master Liao's face, their hearts were like cat's claws. Wishing they could take a sip, immediately Yun Chujio called Ji Kong and the others over to help and began to distribute the gifts. Of course, these people from the Zen sect had a share. Yun Chujio was not stupid enough to turn her back on others. Because there were too many people, the distribution was not completed until late at night. The crowd was reluctant to leave until Yun Chujio put the big iron pot into her storage ring. Yun Chujio yawned a few times. After greeting Master Liaowu, she returned to her own courtyard. Once she entered the house, Buddha's candle came out to claim credit again. "If it wasn't for me today, why would that Yuan Guang commit suicide? I think I'm too powerful. Little girl, if it weren't for me, you would definitely suffer. Humph, you even threw me into the Zen sect before. Do you regret it now? Let me tell you, if you want to be safe in the future, you must bring me along." Yun Chujio was not angry when she heard Buddha's candle's smug words. The competition this time was indeed thanks to Buddha's candle. Otherwise, her fake identity would have been discovered long ago. "Sorry for the inconvenience." "Thank you very much." However, Yun Chujio did not care. Someone know Guai Chao did care. The Guai Chao in her dantian shook its leaves. "Bah, shameless. Wasn't it just a broken candle? What was so great about it?" The black-hearted little girl would not let it out. If she let it out, it could easily send those dregs flying. Yun Chujio sensed the Guai Chao's emotions and found it funny. It was clearly the Buddha's candle that had rendered a meritorious service. Why was Go Weiba showing off? It was really sick. After the Guai Chao sensed Yun Chujio's thoughts, it immediately felt bad for the entire plant. A lack of language was a hard injury. If it could speak, how would it be able to endure such cowardice? Go Weiba might have already conquered the Chongshao continent long ago. No, it was conquering all the continents. It was still the same saying. Once the Goei Batsao appeared, who would contend with it? Chapter 5202, 200 Caddies of Guai Chao. After Guai Chao's heroic spirit was over, Leaf drooped down in frustration. The reason was very simple. The black-hearted little girl could not expose her identity, so naturally, she would not let it out to show off. Yun Chujio saw Guai Chao's pitiful look and felt a rare pain in her conscience. She said, "I can let you out now, but you have to shrink your body a little." When Guai Chao heard this, it immediately began to use its leaves to show its cuteness. It was so happy that it could weigh 200 pounds. When Yun Chujio saw it like this, she could not help but laugh. She immediately let out the Goei Batsao. Goei Batsao shrunk itself to more than 1 foot tall. Although it could become smaller, it had its own narrow-mindedness. If the little girl knew that it could become very, very small, She might discover its small treasury. Therefore, it was better to be careful. Goei Batsao was like a beast that had just been released. It jumped up and down in the house without a moment of peace. The corner of Yun Chujia's eyes twitched. It was the first time she had seen such a lively and active grass. Buddha's candle was very dissatisfied with Goei Bakao's action of stealing Yun Chujia's attention. It snorted coldly and said, "It's just a Goei Batsao, what's the point of showing off? No matter how much you show off, it's still a Goei Batsao that can't be put on the stage." The leaves of the Goei Batsao immediately trembled. The Buddha's candle was now hidden in Yun Chujia's left palm. Even if it wanted to attack, it could not do anything. However, it was not too late for Goei Batsao to take revenge. Just wait and see. Goei Batsao showed off for a while and created the illusion of dissipating. In fact, it turned into the size of a pinky and hid in Yun Chujia's boot. Yun Chujio was completely unaware of this. She only thought that Goei Bakao's spiritual power had been exhausted, so it dissipated. The next morning, the 10,000 Buddha Dharma assembly continued. Goei Batsao used a leaf to cling to the side of Yun Chujia's boot and sneakily looked around. This fellow felt that he was simply too smart. With a little trick, he could watch the show. Although it could also see things outside in Yun Chujia's dantian, the feeling was different. Moreover, this fellow had another idea. Yesterday, the clown candle was in the limelight. Today, it was its turn to be Go Weiba. When the onlookers saw Yun Chujio, they all greeted her politely. Yun Chujio completely entered the character of the lonely little Buddha. She put her hands together and smiled modestly and politely. When the onlookers saw that the lonely little Buddha was still so approachable, their impression of her became even better. Master Liaowu and the others were speechless. They didn't know whether to say that these people were too gullible, or that Yun Chujia's acting was too good. Perhaps even she herself had been deceived. Since the score of the second round of the Buddhist power competition yesterday was 5-3, the following round of the competition was of utmost importance. The Bitter Zen sect directly sent out the successor disciple of Master Xuanji, Yuanji. Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. Yuanji had won 4 Zen sect disciples in a row during the debate, but he was cheated by Yun Chujio in the last round. All his previous efforts were wasted, and he hated Hei Xinjiu to death. Therefore, as soon as Yuanji went on the stage, he directly declared war on Yun Chujio. "Lonesome, we are both the successor disciples of the master. Do you dare to come on the stage and fight with me?" Yun Chujio knew her own strength. If it were not for Yuan Guang who almost killed Ji Su yesterday, she would not have taken the risk to go on the stage. Therefore, after hearing Yuan Ji's provocation, this guy put his palms together and said calmly, "Amit Ba, don't listen to Fang Jing. If you don't fight, you're kind. If you don't argue, you're wise." Chapter 5203, I admit defeat. Yun Chujia's words were translated into plain language, meaning that only when one could not hear right and wrong could one be pure, only when one did not fight could one be merciful, and only when one did not refute could one become wise. The subtext was, whether one listened or not, one could say whatever one wanted, but one would not accept the challenge. Yuan Ji sneered, "You are really a coward. As the successor disciple of the sect leader, you actually did not step onto the stage at this critical moment. Aren't you afraid that other people would be dissatisfied with your master? After all, what you usually enjoy is the core resources of the sect. Now that you are required to contribute, you are backing off. If I were a Zen sect disciple, I would also feel resentful." Yuan Ji originally thought that his provocation would make those Zen sect disciples unhappy. However, he was stunned to see that those Zen sect disciples looked at him as if he was a fool. He could not help but curse in his heart. There was an 80% chance that these disciples of the Zen sect were sick. He did not know that the little Buddha lonesome in front of him was not a member of the Zen sect at all, let alone enjoying the core resources of the sect. Naturally, the disciples of the Zen sect would not be dissatisfied. Yuan Ji saw that Yun Chujio looked like a dead pig that was not afraid of boiling water. He knew that she would not go on stage no matter what, so he had to give up the idea of continuing the provocation. He said arrogantly, since Lone doesn't dare to go on the stage, who among the other disciples of the Jai generation of the Zen sect dares to go on the stage and fight with me? None of the disciples of the Jai generation of the Zen sect said anything. Since both Hope and Jisoo had lost, they would definitely lose if they went on the stage. Moreover, this round was very crucial. If they lost, they would lose the second round of the competition. None of them wanted to take the responsibility. Therefore, no one responded for a long time. Everyone lowered their heads and looked away, afraid that they would be called by Master Liaowu. Ji Kong saw this and stood up. He had used the method that Yun Chujio told him to defeat Yuan Tong. Originally, he did not plan to go on stage again. But now, both Jisoo and Hope were injured, and others did not dare to go on stage. He could not let Yuan Ji scare him. Even if he lost, it was much better than no one going on stage. Yun Chujio saw Ji Kong going on stage and couldn't help but frown. She didn't care about Ji Kong's win or loss, but was worried that Yuan Ji would secretly kill him. As Xian Ji's successor disciple, Yuan Ji naturally had many good things. Moreover, he was sinister. Although Ji Kong was somewhat enlightened, he might not be able to beat him. Thinking of this, she said to Yuan Ji on stage, since you want to compete with me so much, then I'll accompany you for a few moves. Everyone was stunned. Didn't this Lone not want to go on stage before? Why did he change his mind again? Ji Kong understood a little and was very touched. However, he knew that Yun Chujio was a fake. If he went on stage, he might be exposed, so he said, Junior brother Lone, it's better for me to go. Yun Chujio shook her head. That Yuan Ji's words are so harsh. I'll go up and teach him a lesson. As Yun Chujio was about to go up the stage, Master Liaowu coughed and said, Lonesome, have you thought it through? Yun Chujio nodded. After activating the isolation array, she said to Master Liaowu, well, I'll admit defeat when I go up. Don't blame me. Master Liaowu. After Yun Chujio removed the isolation array, she walked slowly to the bottom of the stage and jumped onto the stage. Yuan Ji glanced at her and sneered, You're finally willing to go on stage? Do you want to admit defeat or let me do it? Yun Chujio smiled faintly, I'll admit defeat myself. Yuan Ji. He was just saying all right? How could this Lone be so shameless and actually admit defeat? Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. Chapter 5204, I don't agree. Yuan Ji's face was stiff. As long as anyone was on the stage, how could they admit defeat? If they wanted to admit defeat, could they not go on the stage? Naturally, he would not let Yun Chujio admit defeat and step down the stage. He immediately said, I don't agree. You can't admit defeat before we fight. Yun Chujio looked at him. You were the one who asked if this penniless monk wanted to admit defeat. Now that this penniless monk has admitted defeat and you don't agree, is this appropriate? Yuan Ji's face stiffened, but he still said, no matter what I said before, this is a competition stage. As long as you haven't left the stage, it's not over. As Yuan Ji spoke, not only did he block Yun Chujio's path to leave the stage, but he also released the Blue Lotus. Yun Chujio was not flustered. Although she was not Yuan Ji's match, she had the chili dough and talisman. It was not a problem for her to escape. She thought and did the same thing. She immediately threw a big sack at Yuan Ji. Yuan Ji sneered. He was already prepared for this. He used his Buddhist power to protect himself, so the chili dough did not affect him in the slightest. Seeing this, Yun Chujio took out another stack of talismans. However, she found that the talismans could not be activated. She could not help but be stunned. How could this be? Yuan Ji sneered and said, if you have any other abilities, feel free to use them. When Yun Chujio heard this, she immediately understood that Yuan Ji must have some spirit tool that prohibited talismans on him. It seemed that Yuan Ji had come prepared. If she was not afraid of exposing her identity, she still had many tricks up her sleeves. The bad thing was that she was now the lonely little Buddha and did not dare to use any other tricks. Although Buddha's candle could possess someone, Yuan Ji's cultivation level was much higher than Yuan Guang's. Even if Buddha's candle managed to successfully possess someone, the price would still be very heavy. Moreover, it might not succeed. If it didn't hit, there would be endless trouble in the future. At this moment, the arrow made of the blue Buddha lotus had already arrived in front of Yun Chujio. Yun Chujio couldn't put up her spiritual energy shield, so she could only rely on her nimble movements to dodge. The onlookers below saw Yun Chujio like this, and one by one, they began to make noise. See? The little lonely Buddha is different. He could have used his Buddhist power to protect himself, but he chose to use his movement technique to dodge. What does that mean? It means that the little lonely Buddha is too kind. He must have killed Yuanji because his Buddhist power was too pure. What you said makes sense. Other things aside, as long as little Buddha Lonesome releases his Buddha lotus, he can kill Yuanji in less than 15 minutes. That Yuanji thought little Buddha Lonesome was afraid of him. He really overestimated himself. The corner of Yun Chujio's eyes twitched. Where did they get their confidence from? It was all her fault for acting too well. Yun Chujio wanted to jump off the stage a few times, but she was forced back by Yuan Ji's attacks. She dodged more and more miserably. Yun Chujio said coldly, "Yuan Ji, if you stop me from getting off the stage again, I won't be polite." Yuan Ji said disdainfully, "Not polite? I'd like to see how you're not polite. Release your Buddha lotus." Actually, Yuanji was also a little puzzled as to why Yun Chujio didn't use her Buddhist power. However, on second thought, this lonesome was only at the 9th level of the yellow lotus. Even if he released his lotus, it would be useless. He probably didn't want to embarrass himself, so he didn't release it. Yuanji, I'm warning you for the last time. If you continue to be stubborn, it'll really make you die. Yun Chujio said seriously. The people below the stage immediately burst into laughter. Yuanji? Pass away? It was really fitting. Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. Chapter 5205. Doing good deeds without leaving a name. Yuanji was instantly enraged from embarrassment. Lonesome, you're courting death. Yuanji immediately stepped up his attack. Yun Chujio secretly complained in her heart. Yuan Ji's cultivation was already higher than hers to begin with, and she could only rely on her movement techniques to avoid it. If this continued, she would definitely die. The only method she could use now was to let the Xiao Hanio curse her. However, this curse could only be used once a day. It was best if she did not use it. Therefore, she planned to think of another way. If she really could not, she would use this method again. What Yun Chujio did not know was that at this moment, Goei Batsao was leaning on her boots to watch the show. When this fellow saw that Yun Chujio was in a sorry state, it could not help but gloat. It deserved it. Who asked her not to let it out? However, it thought about it again. Actually, it was not because of this stupid girl. She was now a lonely little Buddha. Naturally, she could not release the spiritual beast. This fellow felt that the opportunity for Goei Batsao to make a contribution had come. However, it was now a weak chicken, so it had to find a good opportunity to make a move. After a few more rounds, Yun Chujio really did not have the strength to resist. After throwing out the big sack, she ordered the little black bird to curse, and was ready to jump off the competition stage when Yuanji was staggering. Yun Chujio saw Yuanji stumble and was about to jump off the competition stage, but she was stunned to see Yuan Ji's body fall off the competition stage with a whoosh. Everyone was stunned. What was going on? How did Yuan Ji fall off the stage? Even Yuan Ji himself did not know what was going on and was almost angered to death. He had just used Buddha's power to protect himself when he suddenly felt his legs go soft. What was even more strange was that a huge force came from behind him and he fell off the stage. What a ghost! Of course, he did not see a ghost. It was just Goei Bakeo's trick. The moment Yun Chujio threw out the big sack, Goei Batsao flew out from her boots. Because of the cover of the chili, no one noticed it. The guy took advantage of Yuan Ji's staggering and used all his strength to crash into his body, which caused him to fall off the stage. At this time, this guy had already sneakily flown back into Yun Chujio's boots while everyone was still in a daze. He was holding on to his boots and was proud of himself. This guy sighed in his heart. Sigh, he was really too honorable. He never left his name behind when he did good deeds. At this time, the crowd was already boiling. Oh my God! Did you see that? Little Buddha Lonely had just said his harsh words, and this Yuan-ji rolled and crawled off the stage. Little Buddha Lonely must have used some kind of supernatural power. It's not necessarily that lonely little Buddha used some kind of supernatural power. Maybe Yuan-ji got his comeuppance. Anyway, there's no good ending for offending lonely little Buddha. Didn't Yuan Guang commit suicide before? You're right. Whoever goes against lonely little Buddha is courting death. Lonely little Buddha didn't want to go on the stage at first, but Yuan-ji kept shouting from above. He's really courting death. Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. Yun Chujio was also confused at this moment. What was going on? Could it be that Xiao Hanio's curse had leveled up? Or could it be that some passing immortal had helped her? But no matter what, the result was good. Since Yuan-ji had already fallen off the stage, she had won this competition. Goei Batsao, who was watching the show, was immediately unhappy. What passing immortal? This was all thanks to Go Weiba. Yun Chujio felt the emotions of the strange grass in her dantian. She thought to herself, this Guai Chao is getting more and more shameless. What does this have to do with it? Chapter 5206 uses the Sanskrit mantra Goei Batsao could feel Yun Chujio's thoughts. It really wanted to jump out of its boots and shout, "It's it, it's it, it's it." However, for the sake of its future small treasury, for the sake of its future freedom, it decided to endure. Anyway, the gold would shine sooner or later. One day, this wretched girl would see the power of Go Weiba. Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you very much. Yun Chujio did not know that Goei Batsao had little Jiojio in his heart. This fellow felt that he was in a good mood. Although she did not know how Yuan-ji had fallen, falling meant falling. She had actually picked up a victory for nothing. This fellow pressed his palms together and said to Yuan-ji, who was already livid with anger, "Amitba. This penniless monk originally wanted to admit defeat, but I did not expect you to actually fall off the competition stage. In that case, the winner of this match will be this penniless monk." Sigh, this penniless monk doesn't want to win either, but the will of heaven is like this. This penniless monk is also very helpless. The onlookers immediately burst into laughter. They thought to themselves, this lonely little Buddha is really interesting. That Yuan-ji is probably going to die from anger. Yuan-ji was indeed very angry, but he had already fallen off the stage. This match was already lost. Just when everyone thought that Yuan-ji would return to the stands, he jumped onto the stage again. Yun Chujio was so scared that she quickly took a few steps back and said, "Yuan-ji, what are you doing here? Don't tell me you don't want to admit your defeat?" Yuan-ji snorted coldly. "Although I lost the previous round, I will continue to challenge you in the next round." "Why not?" Yuan-ji felt that his loss just now was really cowardly and muddle-headed. "Since that was the case, let's have another round." Yun Chujio frowned slightly. Since Yuan-ji was already on the stage, he would definitely not allow her to not accept the challenge or admit defeat directly. This Yuan-ji was really cunning. She thought for a moment and said, "We'll talk about this round later. Master Defang, please announce the results of the previous round first so that there won't be any disputes." Master Defang saw that Yuan-ji and the Bitter Zen sect did not have any objections. The main reason was that it was useless to object. After all, Yuan-ji had indeed fallen off the stage. Master Defang immediately announced, "In the 9th round, Zen sect lone wins. In the 2nd round, the score is 5-4, and the Bitter Zen sect leads by 1 round. Yuan-ji saw that Master Defang had finished his announcement and immediately released the blue Buddha lotus. Clearly, he wanted to gain the upper hand. As Yun Chujio dodged, she secretly complained in her heart. Xiao Hanio's curse had already been used, and she had no way now. Could it be that she could only give herself away? Yun Chujio suddenly had an idea. She still had a skill that worked sometimes but did not. That was the ghost cry wolf howl kill. Ah no, Fanning kill. Although this guy had no confidence in this skill, he could only try his best now. Therefore, This guy took out a piece of jade glass Bodhi leaf and started to play. This guy originally wanted to play the little cabbage, but he felt that it was a little inappropriate, so he decided to play a song to show off. Yuan Ji saw that the few people that Yun Chujio was hiding from were in a sorry state, and actually still had the mood to play the song. He felt that she was most likely crazy. Master Liao's eyes lit up. That's right, this little girl knew how to kill with Sanskrit. If she could display her power, it would be no problem to take down this Yuan Ji. However, very quickly, Master Liao realized that he was overthinking. Because Yun Chujio's tune was very pleasant to hear, but it didn't have the slightest bit of offensive power. Moreover, because she was distracted by playing the tune, she was almost injured by Yuan Ji's Buddha lotus a few times. Yuan Ji's face was full of disdain. In his heart, he was sure that Yun Chujio already had no strength to resist. He could kill her very quickly. Yun Chujio was able to last for such a long time without using any Buddhist power. This was already beyond Yuan Ji's expectations, but it did not matter. He could kill her very soon anyway. Yun Chujio also knew this. She was so angry that she directly ate the jade glass Bodhi leaf in her mouth. Since she could not blow out the Sanskrit sound, she might as well eat it. Yuan Ji saw that Yun Chujio actually ate the jade glass Bodhi leaf in her hand. He couldn't help but be stunned. Wasn't this loan too wasteful? That was the jade glass Bodhi leaf in his hand. Yun Chujio took out another jade glass Bodhi leaf. She didn't care whether it could understand or not. She muttered in a low voice, "If you can't be of any use, I'll eat you too, Pandas novel." Calm, however, when Yun Chujio played the tune again, Yuan Ji felt that his spiritual sense was a little absent-minded. Although he was not in a daze, his movements were clearly much slower. Yun Chujio's eyes lit up when she saw this, and she started to play even more enthusiastically. Yun Chujio originally planned to take this opportunity to jump off the competition stage and admit defeat. However, when she saw that Yuan Ji's movements were getting slower and slower, she changed her mind and decided to win this round. This guy was playing the tune, but his figure turned behind Yuan Ji like a ghost. She did not realize that there was a trace of treachery in Yuan Ji's eyes. He was indeed affected by Yun Chujio's tune, but his speed was not so slow. He did it on purpose. He also had the King of Hell's Storm Needle in his hand. He was determined. Once Yun Chujio turned behind him and was ready to attack, he would use the King of Hell's Storm Needle. At that time, he would definitely be able to take her life. Yun Chujio was completely unaware of this. At this time, she had already turned behind Yuan Ji and raised her right arm to slap Yuan Ji. "I think you should take a look at Panda's novel." Yuan Ji dodged Yun Chujio's attack and then wanted to activate the King of Hell's Storm Needle in his hand. However, at this moment, his right leg was hit by a huge force and he fell off the stage again. He fell on his back. What was even more tragic was that when he was hit, he had already activated the King of Hell's Storm Needle in his hand. Because of this collision, the cylinder was facing him and several arrows hit his chest. The King of Hell's torrential rain needle was extremely powerful, not to mention that it was so close to him. Yuan Ji did not even have the time to let out a scream before he died. Everyone looked at Yuan Ji, who had shot himself into a hedgehog. They were all dumbfounded. Could it be that Yuan Ji had committed suicide? Could it be that he had also offended the Buddha, so he was punished by the Buddha, just like Yuan Guang? If that was not the case, how could he explain the current situation? Yun Chujio was so scared that she broke out in a cold sweat. She knew that Yuan Ji must have wanted to ambush her, but she did not know what had caused the current situation. If that was not the case, although she might have avoided her vital points, she would have been seriously injured and her identity might have been exposed. She was really too careless. The main reason was that she had witnessed the power of the Fan Yin kill before, so she did not suspect that Yuan Ji was faking it. It seemed that she had to be more cautious in the future. However, how did Yuan Ji fall? The first time was a coincidence, but the second time could not be a coincidence. Who had helped her? After a dead silence, the crowd exploded again. "How is it? I told you little Buddha Lonesome couldn't be offended, right? Yuan Guang from before smashed his own head into pieces, and this Yuan Ji is even more miserable. He directly shot himself into a hedgehog. That makes sense. What is Little Buddha Lonesome's identity? These people actually don't know what's good for them and insist on competing with Little Buddha Lonesome. Lonely Buddha said don't want to go on stage, they have to let him go on stage. Well, go on stage, the other Lonely Buddha has offered to admit defeat. They actually don't agree. This is not a suicide, what? Yes, the lonely little Buddha is so kind-hearted. He gave them many chances, but they didn't know how to cherish them. In the end they died. They deserved it. Hei Xinjiu, who was still in a daze on the competition stage, heard the discussions of the crowd. She felt that the lotus fruit from yesterday was indeed not wasted. Look at how many people were eating melons. Well said, well said, well said. Master Xuanji of the Bitter Zen sect had already arrived in front of Yuan Ji's body. Because he was far away, and Yun Chujia's position blocked his vision, he had no idea why Yuan Ji suddenly fell off the stage, nor did he know why Yuan Ji's King of Hell's Storm Needle was shot at him. Master Xuanji carefully examined Yuan Ji's body, but he did not find any flaws. When the furtive Gowei Batsao saw this, it was pleased with itself. No matter how the old thing examined it, it could not find anything on it. So, how could it be so kind? In fact, it could have made the stinky girl suffer a little so that she would not scold it all the time. However, at that moment, it couldn't help but attack. It was simply the kindest grass in the world. I think you should take a look at Panda's novel. It was simply an example of returning good for evil. In the future, when it could speak, it would definitely make the stinky girl shed tears of gratitude towards it. If it wasn't for Go Weiba, she would have died countless times. This fellow selectively forgot that he had almost killed Yun Chujio several times before. He was immersed in the setting of the best grass, and he was so touched that he couldn't even speak. Master Xuanji only had one true disciple, Yuan Ji. Now that Yuan Ji was dead, one could imagine how angry and sad he was. However, Yuan Ji had shot himself to death. Even if he wanted to avenge his disciple, he couldn't blame Yun Chujio. Moreover, Yuan Ji was the one who insisted on competing with Yun Chujio. Even so, Master Xuanji blamed Yuan Ji's death on Yun Chujio. He looked at Yun Chujio with a bone-chilling gaze. Panda's novel, moreover, Master Liaowu wasn't dead. He wouldn't just sit and watch. She looked at Master Defang and said lightly, Master Defang, please announce the result of this round. Master Defang only had to force himself to announce in front of Master Xuanzi's cold eyes. The 10th round, Zen Sect Lonesome wins. The total score of the second round is 5-5. Yun Chujio heard Master Fang announce the results. She originally wanted to jump off the competition stage and return to her seat, but Master Xuanji was below. This fellow was afraid of being tortured to death, so he stood on the stage and gave Master Liaowu a look, asking him to send Master Xuanji away or come to pick her up. Master Liaowu understood, and just as he got up to pretend to comfort Master Xuanji, he did not expect someone from the Bitter Zen sect to jump onto the competition stage. Yun Chujio frowned slightly when she saw the person. The person standing in front of her was a middle-aged monk. He did not look good, which was originally nothing, but Yun Chujio had a photographic memory. He was not in the Bitter Zen sect's lineup yesterday. Could it be that this person was originally the hidden strength of the Bitter Zen sect, so he showed up today in order to ensure victory? At this moment, the person said, "This penniless monk, Yuan Kong, let us compete in this round." Yun Chujio's heart sank. No wonder that Xianji had been lingering under the competition stage. He must have wanted to stop her from leaving the stage. Now, since she was on the competition stage, Yuan Kong would not let her leave. Moreover, if she had admitted defeat earlier, she would have admitted defeat. But now the score was 5-5. If she admitted defeat, the people of Zen sect would feel it was a pity even if they did not say it. The third round was a competition of array formations. It was said that the Bitter Zen sect had a very powerful array formation, so it was best to end the competition in the second round. However, she had won the previous 2 rounds because of dog shit and luck. This round Sky was not friendly, and she could not use her spiritual power, so the risk was a bit high. Before Yun Chujio could come to a conclusion, Yuan Kong directly slapped Yun Chujio's face. Yun Chujio quickly dodged to the side and shouted, "The competition hasn't started yet, you." Before Yun Chujio finished her sentence, Yuan Kong's second palm had already arrived, and at the same time, he released the blue Buddha lotus. Yun Chujio's heart sank. Not only was Yuan Kong's movement technique very fast, but his speed of condensing the Buddha lotus was much faster than Yuan Jie's. This meant that his cultivation was much higher than Yuan Jie. If she didn't think of a way as soon as possible, her little life would probably end here. She really had no choice but to use the same trick again. She threw the chili noodles and talisman seals, but Yuan Kong was already prepared. He used Buddha power to protect his body, so the chili noodles were completely useless. I think you should take a look at Panda's novel. Comas for the talisman seals, he must have a spirit tool on him, so he couldn't use them at all. Yun Chujio was really at her wit's end. She was careless and was shot in the right shoulder by an arrow formed from a Buddha lotus petal. In an instant, blood dyed the monk's robe red. There were waves of exclamations coming from below the stage. The onlookers stared with their eyes wide open, but their mouths were not idle. Oh no! Little Buddha Lone Moon is actually injured. It seems that Yuan Kong is not easy to deal with. Panda's novel. Touchus. Little Buddha Lone Moon, quickly use your golden Buddha lotus to kill him. We all support you. Yun Chujio smiled bitterly in her heart. She could not even form the most ordinary black lotus, let alone the golden lotus. If she really could not do it, she could only take the risk of exposing herself and deal with Yuan Kong. After all, nothing was more important than her life. She was not that stupid. The Goei Batsao in Yun Chujio's boots wanted to help, but it could not find a suitable opportunity. Moreover, it had used up a lot of spiritual power to deal with Yuan Ji previously. Now, it was not enough. Just as Yun Chujio was about to use the purple needle, several gray shadows jumped onto the competition stage and pounced towards Yuan Kong. In an instant, Yuan Kong cried out in pain. At this time, Yun Chujio also saw the gray shadows clearly. It was actually dozens of inch rats. Although the attack power of the inch rats was very ordinary, their speed was very fast. Moreover, their claws and teeth were very sharp. Yuan Kong's face was now a bloody mess, and even his nose and ears had been bitten off by the inch rats. Yun Chujio did not have time to think too much. She quickly took out a sword from her storage ring and stabbed it at Yuan Kong. As the saying goes, take his life while he was sick. She was not a gentleman. Yuan Kong's eyes were also scratched by the inch rats. His vision was blurry. Moreover, his attention was on the inch rats, so Yun Chujio's sword cut off his head. The process was so smooth that Yun Chujio herself could not believe it. In fact, this was because Goei Batsao pushed Yuan Kong's back, which was basically equivalent to him bumping into Yun Chujio's sword. Goei Batsao was very small, and the stage was in a mess, so no one noticed it at all. However, one of the hamsters saw it and squeaked a few times. However, no one understood it. Yun Chujio saw that Yuan Kong was already dead, and she finally heaved a sigh of relief. She looked at the inch rats gratefully. A few inch rats were severely injured by Yuan Kong, so Yun Chujio quickly took out pills and fed them. She had saved an inch rat from Yuan Qing during the scripture debate, so it must have been the little thing that summoned its companions to save her. As expected, Yun Chujio found the inch rat in the group of rats. The little thing's bright black eyes were especially lively. Perhaps it was the king of the rats. However, she did not know how it had fallen into Yuan Qing's hands. Yun Chujio said gratefully to the inch rat, "Thank you very much. I'll give these pills to you." Yun Chujio took out a lot of pills and handed them to the inch rat. The inch rat immediately kept the pills into its storage space. Then, it called the other inch rats and ran away as fast as it could. Everyone was stunned by the scene in front of them. Oh my God! They had only read about the story of a spirit beast returning a favor in the storybook. They didn't expect that they would actually see a real-life version today. The little lonely Buddha was indeed the little lonely Buddha. He was always able to turn misfortune into good fortune in times of danger. He was really amazing. I think you should take a look at Panda's novel. Calm on the bitter Zen sect's side, there was a cloud of gloom and misery. Master Xuanzi's face was terrifyingly gloomy. This Yuan Kong was the disciple of the supreme elder of the bitter Zen sect and had specially rushed over to help. But now, he had directly lost his life. Originally, Yuan Kong already had the absolute advantage and would soon be able to kill that loneliness. He did not expect to be disturbed by a group of inch rats. Thinking of the inch rats, Master Xuanji gave Yuan Qing a vicious glance. Yuan Qing was so frightened by this cold look that he almost peed. He felt that his life was going to be over. If he had known earlier, he would not have taken the initiative to go on stage yesterday. If he had known earlier, he would not have been idle and captured that inch rat. The worst mistake was that because he wanted to give that inch rat away, he did not establish a contract with that inch rat. Otherwise, there would not have been this trouble. In stark contrast to the bitter Zen sect, the Zen sect members were overjoyed. They didn't expect that they would win. The first round of scripture debate and the second round of Buddhist power competition were both won by the Zen sect. There was no need to compete in the third round of array formation. It was really a cause for celebration. Panda's novel, Kamyun Chujio, was also very happy. 2 out of 3 wins. The Zen sect had already obtained 2 victories, which meant that there was no need for the third round of competition. Previously, Master Liaowu had promised her that as long as she helped the Zen sect to win the 10,000 Buddha Dharma assembly, he would tell her who was behind the imprisonment of her parents. It was great. Yun Chujio looked at Master Defang with a smile, wanting to urge him to announce the final result of the competition. But unexpectedly, Master Xuanji said in a deep voice, "This round can't be counted. If it weren't for those inch rats, the winner of this round should be Yuan Kong." Master Liaowu immediately retorted, "Master Xuanji, what you said is wrong. There are no ifs in this world. Yuan Kong was attacked by the inch rats. It can only be said that he was unlucky. So this round is won by loan." Master Xuanji sneered, "If the owner of the inch rats is loneliness, I have nothing to say. After all, they can show their abilities on the competition stage." However, those inch rats grew wild in Mount Buddha, so this round could not be counted at all. "Master Liaowu, don't you know whether loneliness won by his own ability or not? I didn't expect that your Zen sect has fallen to such a state." Master Liaowu was unwilling to be outdone. There is cause and effect. Why did those crotch rats help Lonesome? Wasn't it because your disciple wanted to kill one of the crotch rats? So this is what your Zen sect deserves. Moreover, everything that happened on the competition stage should be counted as part of the competition. You can only admit your bad luck. No matter what, your Zen sect has already lost this 10,000 Buddha Dharma assembly. If anything happens in the future, don't blame us for being impolite. The two of them argued with each other for quite a while, but they did not come to a conclusion. At this time, Master Defang said, "Amitba, how about we call this round a draw? Let's call this round a draw between the Zen sect and the bitter Zen sect. Let's directly enter the third round of the competition." Master Liaowu naturally wouldn't accept it. They had already won, so why would they compete in the third round? Moreover, he had heard that the bitter Zen sect had a powerful array formation. If they were to compete in the third round, their Zen sect might not be able to win. Master Xuanzi's eyes flashed. He changed the topic and said, "Our bitter Zen sect has a lot of scriptures. Many of them are ancient Buddhist scriptures. After all, our 2 sects have the same origin. If the time is right, our bitter Zen sect is willing to give some to the Zen sect as a gift. I think you should take a look at Panda's novel." Master Liaowu was not a fool, so he naturally understood Master Xuanzi's underlying meaning. If he agreed that this round was a draw, then the bitter Zen sect would give some ancient Buddhist scriptures to the Zen sect. This condition could be said to have hit Master Liaowu's heart. Previously, the ancestor of the Lan family had relied on a Buddhist scripture to obtain the qualification to cultivate in the tranquil spring, which showed how much the Zen sect valued the ancient Buddhist scriptures. Master Liaowu thought for a moment and asked, "How many scrolls is Master Xuanji prepared to gift?" 20 scrolls, Master Xuanji said. Panda's novel. Calm Master Liaowu was very conflicted. The attraction of 20 ancient Buddhist scriptures was too great. But once he agreed, if he lost the third round of the array competition, wouldn't the gains outweigh the losses? Just as Master Liaowu was hesitating, Master Xuanji said, since it's a competition, we have to convince both sides. If the 10,000 Buddha Dharma assembly ends like this, our bitter Zen sect won't accept it. Then, our previous promise won't count. The subtext of his words was that if this round counted as their loss, they would refuse to admit their defeat. They continued to send troops to attack the Zen sect. Master Liaowu thought that if this was the case, they might as well ask for these 20 volumes of ancient Buddhist scriptures. Even if they lost in the third round of the array competition, the big score would only be 1-1. There was still room for reconciliation. Moreover, didn't he still have his precious disciple? Perhaps he could win in the third round. Thinking of this, Master Liaowu said, "Do you have the ancient Buddhist scriptures with you?" Hearing this, Master Xuanji knew that Master Liaowu had agreed, so he was quite happy. He directly passed the 20 ancient Buddhist scriptures to Master Liaowu. Master Liaowu looked through them and saw that there were no mistakes, so he said, "Okay, then the second round will be a draw between us." Yun Chujio heard their conversation clearly. She blinked her eyes and calculated in her heart. If the Zen sect lost in the end, she would force Master Liaowu to reveal the mastermind. Panda's novel. Calm now that the matter had come to an end, Hei Xinjiu no longer needed to stand on the stage foolishly. She jumped off the stage. However, this fellow was afraid that Master Xuanji would torture her to death, so he stood behind Master Liaowu as soon as he got off the stage. Now that Master Liaowu found her pleasing to the eye, he chatted with Master Xuanji for a while and then brought Yun Chujio back to his own stand. Seeing that both sides had finished their discussion, Master Defang immediately announced, "The second round of the Buddhist power competition will be a draw. Now, the third round of the array competition will begin." The German master then explained the rules of the array competition. It was very simple. The Zen sect and the bitter Zen sect had about a day and a night to set up the array. Then, both sides would send 10 people into the array, and the first to break the array would win. The space of the competition stage was limited, so the array was set up on a piece of empty land next to it. After the German master explained the rules of the competition, he announced that both sides could set up the array. The next day, the array was set up. Because they were afraid of leaking the secret, both sides had opened the isolation array formation when they set up the array formation. Seeing that there was nothing to see, the spectators dispersed one after another. Yun Chujio did not know how to set up the array formation. Logically speaking, this fellow should have gone back to Buddha Temple to rest. However, this fellow was afraid that the people of the bitter Zen sect would secretly kill her, so he stayed behind. I think you should take a look at Panda's novel. Calm, however, this fellow took out an all-purpose small tent and hid inside it to read a script. The way of civil and martial arts was to relax and relax. The tension in her heart these 2 days was too tight, so she had to relax. Just when Yun Chujio was engrossed in reading, Ji Su limped in. His buttocks had been injured by Yuan Guang using the King of Hell's storm needle. Although he was much better, his movements were too big, so it still hurt a little. "Junior brother Lonesome, what are you reading? Is it Buddhist scriptures?" Ji Su asked curiously when he saw that Yun Chujio was reading with great interest. Yun Chujio blinked her eyes and raised the book in her hand. On the cover of the book was written, "The past events that I had to tell my snake demon husband." Jesus' face immediately turned red. He did not care about the pain in his buttocks anymore. He took a few steps back and stammered, You, how can you read this kind of book? Amitba, it's a sin. Hei Xinjiu glanced at him and said in surprise, "Senior brother Ji Su, what do you mean by this? What's wrong with this kind of book?" Jesus' face turned even redder. This book is really indecent. Senior brother Ji Su, this is your fault. As the saying goes, wine and meat go through the intestines. Buddha keeps it in his heart. As long as he has Buddha in his heart, what does it matter if he reads these books? Yun Chujio said with a chuckle. Ji-soo knew that Yun Chujio was trying to twist the truth. He pointed at Yun Chujio with trembling fingers and did not speak for a long time. Yun Chujio was originally a female devil in his heart. However, after the events of the past 2 days, he felt that he was wrong. In fact, benefactor Yun was still very kind. However, at this moment, he felt that he was very wrong. Not only was she a female devil, she was also a lecherous female devil. Yun Chujio saw that Ji-soo was blushing and did not say anything. She ignored him and continued to read the script with great interest. The quality of the script was not bad. Not only was it vividly described, but there were also illustrations. Tsk, she really understood her thoughts. Ji-soo saw that Yun Chujio was still acting on her own and did not pay attention to him. He could only turn around and leave the tent. He had just gone out to meet Sect Master Wu and Master Lei. When the two of them saw Ji-su's flushed face, they couldn't help but wonder. Master Lei asked, "Ji-soo, what happened?" Ji-soo thought about it and still didn't tell the truth. No matter what, benefactor Yun was also a woman. If this matter were to be spread out, it wouldn't be good for her. Thus he said, "Master, it's nothing. It's just that the tent is a little stuffy and hot. I came out to get some fresh air." Ji-soo was different from before. He didn't have any burden when it came to lying, so Master Lei didn't see any flaws. Immediately he entered the tent with Master Liaowu. Ji-soo thought for a while and also hobbled in. Ji-soo went in to take a look. He saw that Yun Chujio had already stood up, but the book was placed on the small table next to it. Ji-soo was humble. Was this female devil stupid? "Why don't you put the book away?" If Master and the sect master saw this, she wouldn't have a good ending. Ji-soo thought of this and coughed twice. Then he gave Yun Chujio a look and told her to put the book away quickly. Yun Chujio blinked her eyes. "Senior brother Ji-soo, is your eye cramping?" "Ji-soo, I think you should take a look at Panda's novel." "Compandas novel." Ji-soo thought for a moment. No matter what, this female devil had saved him before. He couldn't just sit by and do nothing. Thus, while Master Liaowu and Yun Chujio were talking, he moved to the side of the small table, trying to use his body to cover the books on the table. However, just as he moved to the side of the table, he heard Master Liaowu say, "Lone, what book were you reading just now?" "I was studying the Lotus Sutra just now," Yun Chujio said with a smile. Ji-soo thought, "Pui, you really dare to say it? Lotus Sutra?" It was clearly some slave, some snake demon husband, and some past events in bed. Master Liaowu nodded his head in gratification. "That's great. Ji-soo, pass the scripture to me, and I'll explain it to Master Liaowu." Ji-su's head buzzed and he muttered, "Sect Master, you're familiar with scripture, so you shouldn't need to use Buddhist scriptures to teach, right?" Master Liaowu, Master Lei wished he could strangle his stupid disciple to death. "If he asked you to take the scripture, then you should just take it. Why would there be so much nonsense?" Could it be that because his buttocks were injured, his brain was not functioning properly? Master Lei was not angry. He smiled faintly and said, "Although I can recite the Lotus Flower Sutra silently, it is still more convenient to take the scripture and explain it." Jesus' face turned even redder, but he did not move. He thought to himself, how about he destroy the corpse and destroy the evidence? Master Lei saw that Ji-soo still did not move and glared at him. Just as he was about to speak, he saw Yun Chujio pick up the book on the table and handed it to Master Liaowu. "Master, here you are." Ji-soo was humbled. It was over. Was this female devil stupid? She actually gave the immoral book to the sect leader? This time, the sect leader would definitely fly into a rage. It would definitely not end well for her. She was really courting death. Panda's novel. Ji-soo couldn't bear to look at it anymore. The sect master was the most serious and rigid. He had to scold the female devil until she was full of blood. However, the storm that he had imagined didn't come. Master Liaowu had already begun to explain the Buddhist scriptures to Yun Chujio. Ji-soo gathered his courage and looked at it. He was instantly dumbfounded. What Master Liaowu was holding in his hand was clearly the Lotus Flower Sutra. It wasn't the book that was indecent at all. Ji-soo caught a glimpse of Yun Chujio's mischievous gaze and immediately understood. This demoness must have realized that someone was coming, so she switched the book. To think that he was so worried. It turned out that the emperor was not in a hurry and the eunuch was in a hurry. Master Liaowu explained a section of Buddhist scriptures and then changed the topic. Lone, do you have any research on formations? Yun Chujio blinked her eyes. 7 orifices have been opened and 6 orifices have been opened. Ji-soo heard this and thought, oh my, 7 apertures connected to 6 apertures? From what she said, it seemed that she knew a lot about formations. However, he also felt the meaning of her words. 7 apertures connected to 6 apertures, didn't that mean that she didn't know anything? This female devil couldn't speak properly either. If her brain wasn't working properly, she wouldn't be able to understand what she was trying to say. Master Liaowu naturally understood. Although he was a little disappointed, he thought that he might not lose the 3rd round. After all, their Zen sect's Skynet demon subduing formation wasn't that easy to crack. Master Liaowu remembered the matter of today's competition and asked, why did Yuan Ji fall from the competition stage twice? What kind of supernatural power is this? Yun Chujio spread her hands. Master, I am also puzzled. I don't know which passing immortal helped me. Maybe Buddha saw that I was so kind and came to his senses. Master Liaowu chatted for a while more, then left with Master Lei. Ji-soo gave Yun Chujio a warning look and also left. Yun Chujio pouted and continued to take out her notebook. The goeibatsao in Yun Chujio's boots was very, very dim now. This guy felt too damn aggrieved. I think you should take a look at Panda's novel. Comet was clearly its great achievements, but no one knew that it was not so easy to be a nameless hero. However, the most important thing now was to let the little girl let it out again so that it could save up some money, or else it would disappear. Thus, the strange grass in the dantian began to play cute with Guaichao. Yun Chujio thought that it wanted to eat pills again, so she swallowed 2 bottles of pills. However, when she saw that it was still playing cute with Guaichao, she understood that it wanted to come out and play. Yun Chujio was in a good mood today, so she followed Guaichao's intention and let it out. Goeibatsao turned itself into a foot long and crawled beside Yun Chujio. It poked its head out and read the script with Yun Chujio. Although it could only read a limited number of words, there were illustrations in the script, so it could still understand. Seeing the colored illustrations, this guy even covered its ears with grass leaves, looking ashamed. Yun Chujio, you fucking grass know how to be shy? Speaking of which, does this grass differentiate between male and female? Since this guy didn't understand, he asked the goeibatsao lying next to him, Goeibatsao, are you male or female? Goeibatsao was immediately unhappy. What did he mean by male and female? He said it so inelegantly, it was clearly male and female. This guy stood up and patted his stem with grass leaves, indicating that he was so strong that he was naturally male. Yun Chujio finally understood what he meant and nodded, oh, so it's a male. Yun Chujio thought for a while and realized that her spiritual pets were all male. Only Xiaohei's Peach Blossom and Rolling Pin were female. By the way, she didn't know if Xiaomogu was a male or a female. Yun Chujio immediately took out Xiaomogu and asked, Xiaomogu, are you a baby boy or a baby girl? Goeibatsao, it could feel the little girl's malicious intentions towards it. She asked it if it was a male or a female, and now she asked Xiaomogu if it was a baby boy or a baby girl. Who wasn't a baby? He was really bullying the grass. Xiaomogu's mushroom cap was slightly pink. He used his spiritual sense to say, Master, I am a female baby. Xiaomogu looked at Xiaomogu who had turned pink. The leaves of the grass trembled. This Xiaomogu was much stronger than the other idiots. Spiritual plants were cuter than demon beasts. For example, it was Xiaomogu's dogtail. And Xiaomogu in front of Go Weiba. Yun Chujio saw Goeibatsao sneakily sizing up Xiaomogu and teased, Goeibatsao, don't tell me you've taken a fancy to Xiaomogu? Goeibatsao immediately jumped up as if someone had stepped on a cat's tail. It desperately waved its leaves to show its denial. Yun Chujio originally wanted to tease it, but when she saw how excited it was, the corner of her mouth curled up. Io, could this Go Weiba really have a lustful heart? No wonder she was embarrassed when she read the script. It turned out to be a grass with color in its heart. Guai Chao sensed Yun Chujio's thoughts and was both embarrassed and angry. However, it could not speak and could only desperately wave its leaves. Xiao Mogu looked curiously at Go Weibatsao. There was no record of Guai Chao in its inheritance. What the hell was this? Go Weibatsao misunderstood and thought that Xiao Mogu was peeping at it. Immediately, the anger in its heart dissipated a little and it subconsciously straightened its stem. I think you should take a look at Panda's novel. Xiao Mogu thought to itself, a peerless grass hero like Xiao Mogu was naturally very popular with young girls. It was normal for Xiao Mogu to like Xiao Mogu, but Xiao Mogu would not easily fall for such a high-end and high-class grass. It would be a waste for Xiao Mogu to like Xiao Mogu. Although Yun Chujio did not know what Go Weibatsao was thinking, she could feel that Xiao Mogu was very smug. She pursed her lips. She really did not know where Xiao Mogu's confidence came from. Could it be because of its name? Panda's novel. Go Weibatsao, you are ruthless. The man and the grass continued to have their own thoughts. Looking at the storybook, Go Weibatsao hid a small trick. After a while, it pretended to disappear. Then, it pretended to be cute and asked Yun Chujio to let it out again. Yun Chujio thought it would be fun to have Go Weibatsao to read the script with it, so she let it out again. After repeating this a few times, Go Weibatsao had accumulated a lot of money and was about to fly up happily. Compared to Yun Chujio's leisurely time, the Zen sect people outside had been busy setting up the array formation. The night passed quickly. When it was time, the Zen sect and the Bitter Zen sect opened the isolation array formation. At this time, the onlookers had arrived. They craned their necks to watch. This was the first time many of them had seen a competition of array formations. They were very curious. The people of the Bitter Zen sect looked somewhat pleased with themselves. They had found this Disha lotus formation by accident in the library. It was very exquisite. The people of the Zen sect who entered would lose their lives, not to mention breaking the array. There was no restriction on seniority in this round of competition. Disciples of both sects were allowed to participate. The Zen sect had already chosen their candidates yesterday. They were led by a master lay, 4 elders, and 5 disciples of the silent generation. Among them was the newly made lonely little Buddha. Chapter 52:16 Disha Lotus Formation. Although Yun Chujio said that she knew nothing about formations, Master Liaowu still arranged for her to enter the formation with him. After all, this little girl was full of bad ideas. She might be useful. In fact, even if Master Liaowu didn't arrange for Yun Chujio to enter the formation, she still had to enter the formation. That was because she had the sharp weapon to break the formation, the black bead. Originally, she was still worried about the 3rd round of the array competition. However, after hearing the rules from Master Defang yesterday, her worries were immediately thrown to the back of her mind. Otherwise, this fellow wouldn't be in the mood to read the script. Wasn't it just breaking the array? That was simple. She didn't need to know the array at all, nor did she need to find the door of life and death. She just needed to find the location of the array disk and destroy it immediately. When the time came, Yun Chujio followed a master lay and the others into the Disha lotus formation set up by the Bitter Zen sect. Master Xuanzi's lips curled into a cold smile. The Disha lotus formation was different from ordinary arrays. The Sanskrit language derived from it could attack one's spiritual sense. They had no way to break the formation, let alone break it. Even if they could break the formation, their spiritual sense would be greatly damaged. None of the 10 people who entered would be able to think properly. As it was a competition of formations, when the formation was set up, it was specially arranged accordingly. Therefore, the onlookers could see the situation inside the formation, but the people inside the formation could not see the situation outside. At this moment, both formations were activated at the same time. In the eyes of outsiders, those people were just standing on the same spot, but the people inside the formation saw a completely different scene. The surroundings were foggy, and one could only barely see his companions around him. From a distance, one could not see anything. Master Li frowned. In the Zen sect, his attainments in formations were the highest, but he had no clue about the formations in front of him. Everyone, don't scatter. Use your Buddhist power to protect yourselves and be on high alert. Hearing this, everyone immediately followed his instructions. Only Yun Chujio blinked her eyes and squeezed into the middle of the crowd. Only then did everyone remember that this guy didn't have Buddha energy, and he couldn't reveal his spiritual power either. However, it wasn't a problem for everyone to protect her, so no one said anything. At this time, arrows were shot out from the surroundings, and everyone took turns to attack with Buddha lotuses, which was quite easy. A disciple of the Ji generation said, "It seems that this so-called Disha lotus formation is just SOSO. It's far inferior to our Zen sect's Skynet demon-subduing formation." As soon as he finished speaking, Sanskrit formed by countless Buddhist powers suddenly gushed out from all directions. Everyone quickly struck with the lotus. Although most of the Buddhist power Sanskrit was scattered, one of the Sanskrit struck the disciple who had spoken earlier. The disciple screamed in pain. A spiritual attack. This Sanskrit is actually a spiritual attack. Hearing that, everyone's expression changed drastically. No wonder the bitter Zen sect bragged about how powerful their array formation was. It turned out that the Disha lotus array could actually carry out spiritual attacks. It should be known that an array formation that could use spiritual power or Buddhist power to attack was not rare, but an array formation that could carry out spiritual attacks was as rare as a phoenix feather or a qilin horn, not to mention that this array formation was so sophisticated. Master Leia's heart could not help but sink. If they could not break out of the formation as soon as possible, the consequences would be unimaginable. However, where was the life gate of the Disha lotus formation? Master Lei gritted his teeth and chose a place that he thought was the life gate. However, after everyone walked over, they were once again attacked by the Sanskrit language. Fortunately, everyone had experience this time, so no one was injured. Just as everyone was about to heave a sigh of relief, countless Sanskrit words surged toward them once again, and there were even more of them than before. The frequency of the Sanskrit attacks became faster and faster, and fine beads of sweat began to appear on everyone's foreheads. If this continued, they would sooner or later exhaust their Buddha energy. When the spectators outside the array formation saw the situation inside, their expressions were all different. The people of the bitter Zen sect were naturally very proud. In this round of array competition, their bitter Zen sect would definitely win. Master Liaowu was deeply worried. He didn't expect that this Disha lotus array could actually attack the spiritual sense. No wonder Xian Ji looked so confident. As time went on, their spiritual sense would definitely be damaged. This would be very disadvantageous for their future cultivation. He gritted his teeth. If he really couldn't do it, he could only admit defeat. At this moment, inside the Disha lotus formation, the expressions of Master Lei and the others became more and more serious. A few of the silent generation disciples had used up too much of their Buddha energy, and their faces turned pale. Of course, there were also some who were relaxed, such as Hei Shinjio. This fellow stood in the middle of everyone. 9 people were protecting one of her, so the protection was airtight. This fellow seemed to be daydreaming, and no one knew what she was thinking. Seeing her like this, Master Leia's face could not help but stiffen. What kind of situation was this? This fellow actually still had the mood to be in a daze? Wasn't she afraid of dying in this array? A disciple of the Jai generation beside Yun Chujio pushed Yun Chujio. "Lonesome, wake up. This is breaking the array." Only then did Yun Chujio come back to her senses. The reason why this fellow was absent-minded just now was because he remembered something that she had almost forgotten. When she had met that old monk, Wang Su, at the Fallen God Abyss, that old monk had not been on the right track in the beginning. He had used some Buddha light golden lotus array to deal with her, and had also converted Buddha energy into Sanskrit to attack her spiritual sense. Panda's novel, That Buddha light golden lotus array was definitely an incredible thing. If she used this thing to negotiate with Master Liaowu, It might be very convenient to save her parents. I think you should take a look at Panda's novel. Calm now, she was pushed by that disciple of the Jai generation. Only then did she remember that now was not the time to think about this. It was better to quickly break the array. This fellow hurriedly started to seduce the black bead. It was not enough for this fellow to feel that bringing people out was not enough to appease her hatred. She had to get some benefits. Thus, she said to Master Lei, Amitba. Martial uncle, I am the reincarnation of the Buddha. This Sanskrit can't hurt me. Let me out. I have a way to break the array. Master Lei thought that Yun Chujio had gone mad. And it was not light. Are you addicted to acting? Do you really think that you are the reincarnation of a Buddha? What exactly are you? Don't you know? Before Master Lei could stop her, Yun Chujio had already squeezed out of the crack. Immediately, countless Sanskrit words rushed towards her. The two people standing beside Yun Chujio hurriedly struck her with their Buddhist lotuses. However, there were still a few Sanskrit words that struck Yun Chujio. Master Lei's heart sank. It was over. Although it was only a few Sanskrit words, it would still cause damage to one's spiritual sense. This little girl had already gone crazy. Now, she would probably become a fool. However, he was stunned to discover that Yun Chujio was completely fine. This fellow even reached out and pulled the Sanskrit that had surged over to the side, muttering, Amitba, this penniless monk still has things to do, and I don't have time to play with you guys. Master Lei, the others, was it because they were inexperienced, or was this troublemaker too abnormal? Not to mention Master Lei and the others, even the faces of Master Xuanji and the others outside were stiff. Those were Sanskrit words that could attack one's spiritual sense, yet that Lone was actually fine? And he even said that he was playing? The crowd that was watching the show immediately erupted. Did you see that? That lone little Buddha is really different. The Sanskrit words don't even attack him, and he even wants to play with him. It seems that the little lonely Buddha wasn't distracted before. He must have been enlightened by Buddha, and that's why he has such a supernatural power. You're right. When I go back, I will worship a little lonely Buddha at home. He will definitely bless me with peace, and bless my wife to give birth to a fat son. Go to hell. The little lonely Buddha isn't a child giving guanyin. Master Xuanzi's face darkened when he heard the crowd's words. However, he thought about it again. Although Lonely was not afraid of the Sanskrit attack, they still could not find the life gate and would still lose. Moreover, Lonely was not afraid of the Sanskrit attack, but the 9 people were. Moreover, Xian Hui and the others who had entered the Skynet demon-subduing formation set up by the Zen sect should be able to find the life gate soon. By then, the winner of the 3rd round would definitely be their bitter Zen sect. Although the big score was only 1-1, what would be the 4th round was still not up to their bitter Zen sect. Therefore, the final winner of the 10,000 Buddha Dharma assembly would definitely be their bitter Zen sect. With that thought, his expression eased up. At this moment, he heard the exclamations of the crowd. He quickly looked into the array of the Disha lotus formation. He saw Lone squatting on the ground with a pickaxe in his hand, digging a hole. Xianji's expression suddenly changed. The place where Lone was digging was where the array disc was. What was he trying to do? Could it be that he wanted to dig out the array disc? How did he know where the array disc was? I think you should take a look at Panda's novel. Come inside the array formation, a Master Lei and the others did not know what Yun Chujio was trying to do. All of them looked at her in confusion. Lonesome, what are you doing? Master Lei asked. Panda's novel. Calm. The corner of Master Lei's eyes twitched violently. This drama queen was completely immersed in her character. Buddha enlightened her? He had been a monk for so many years, but he had never been enlightened by Buddha. How could a fake monk like her be enlightened by Buddha? However, when Master Lei saw the Sanskrit text that kept pouring toward Yun Chujio, he decided to trust her this time. Therefore, he said, Lonesome, you are in charge of striking the Sanskrit text with us. Let them dig it. Yun Chujio was naturally eager to dig the hole. It was not an ordinary tiring job, and the bitter Zen sect had buried the array disc unusually deep. Therefore, Yun Chujio used her body to beat the Sanskrit around like a little bee, so that the disciples of the silent generation could dig a hole. It was a pity that the talisman couldn't be used here, or it would save a lot of trouble. Goei Batsao leaned on the boot and watched the show with great interest. At this moment, it felt that it was okay to do a good deed without leaving a name. At least it had gained freedom. If it was exposed, according to the wretched girl's character, once it angered her, she would definitely not let it out. Therefore, regardless of whether it was a person or a grass, one had to control their own fate. Outside the array formation, the faces of the people from the bitter Zen sect were very stiff. Although their array disc was buried very deep, due to the lack of time, it was not buried very deep. If this continued, it was estimated that the people of the Zen sect would soon dig out the formation discs. Master Liaowu caught a glimpse of the expressions of the people from the bitter Zen sect. His heart moved and he immediately understood. He secretly laughed in his heart. His disciple was still smart. This move was called cutting the firewood from the bottom of the pot. No matter what array formation it was, once the array disc was destroyed, the array formation would naturally be broken. Moreover, it was completely broken. However, yesterday this little girl said that she knew nothing about arrays. How did she suddenly find the location of the array disc today? Master Xuanji clenched his fists tightly. He could only hope that Xian Hu's side could break the array quickly. If that was the case, victory would still belong to them. However, when he saw the situation on Xian Hu's side, he could not help but feel a chill in his heart. Xian Hui and the others were certain that Master Lei and the others would not be able to break the array, so they deliberately dawdled. This was because as long as they did not step out of the array, the competition would not end. They could make Master Lei and the others more seriously injured. Yun Chujio had also guessed this point, so she did not directly choose to break the formation through the life gate. Instead, she chose to dig the formation plate. An hour later, the disciples of the silent generation finally dug a deep pit, and a part of the formation plate appeared inside. In the groove of the formation plate of the Disha Lotus formation, there were not spirit stones, but spirit stones. These spirit stones were extremely precious, thousands of times more precious than top-grade spirit stones. Only some special places could produce them. Yun Chujio wanted these psyche power stones. This guy shamelessly put all the psyche power stones in the groove of the disc array into his storage ring. This was a good thing. It could be used to feed Buddha's candle in the future. Buddha's candle sensed Hei Xinjia's thoughts and was extremely touched. It seemed that the little girl treated it quite well. The disc array relied on the Psyche Power Stone to drive it. Now that the Psyche Power Stone was put away by Yun Chujio, the disc array naturally stopped running. The surrounding scene also returned to normal. I think you should take a look at Panda's novel. The Zen sect disciples cheered, and the onlookers were also laughing foolishly. They didn't care about the Zen sect or the bitter Zen sect, as long as the lonely little Buddha won. Master Xuanji and those people from the bitter Zen sect had ugly expressions, especially when they watched Yun Chujio steal all the psyche stones in the formation disc. Panda's novel. Xian Hui and the others inside still didn't know what had happened. Xian Hui asked in puzzlement, "What happened? What happened? Why did the array stop? Could it be that your Zen sect's array formation had a problem, so it stopped midway?" Those people behind him also followed with sarcasm and ridicule. It meant that the Zen sect didn't even set up the array formation clearly, so why would they compete with them? What a disgrace. Master Xuanji couldn't keep his face and shouted, "Shut up! We have lost this array competition." Xian Hui and the others couldn't believe their ears. What? They had lost? Those people from the Zen sect had broken the Disha Lotus array. How could this be possible? This Disha Lotus array was an ancient array formation. They had studied it for decades before they could figure out a way to break it. How could the people from the Zen sect have broken it? This was impossible. At this moment, someone saw the deep pit and was dumbfounded. Could it be that the Zen sect had dug out the array disc? So, the array was cracked? How did they know where the array disc was? Could there be a spy? Master Liaowu only felt a sense of relief. He had never been in such a good mood before. He pressed his palms together and said to Master Xuanji, Master Xuanji, we won the third round of the array formation competition. So, can the 10,000 Buddha Dharma assembly end? Master Xuanji gritted his teeth and said, we admit defeat since our skills are inferior. However, those psychokinesis stones belong to our bitter Zen sect, so we have to trouble Master Liaowu to ask him to hand them over. The corner of Master Liao's mouth twitched slightly when he heard Master Xuanzi's words. Hand it over? How could he hand over the thing in the hands of that troublemaker? The jade glass Bodhi leaf of their Zen sect was almost shaved bald by her, and she had only given them a dozen pieces. Therefore, Master Liaowu didn't say anything but looked at Hei Xinjiu who was standing behind him. Hei Xinjiu put her palms together and said, Amitba. Master Xuanji, I don't understand what you're saying. Master Xuanji was already very angry because he had lost. Now that he heard her words, he became even angrier. He raised his voice and said, I say, hand over the psyche stone of our bitter Zen sect. Yun Chujio looked innocent. The psyche stone of your bitter Zen sect? I didn't see it. Master Xuanji, this loan was lying through his teeth. He actually wanted to deny it under everyone's watchful eyes. Loan, I saw every move you made in the array formation. You put all the psyche stones in the Disha Lotus array disk into your storage ring, and now you want to deny it? Yun Chujio's expression became even more innocent. Is that so? Then you may have seen wrongly. What a joke, you still want to take back what was in her hands. No way. Panda's novel, Kami and Chujio smiled faintly. Master Xuanji, this penniless monk played a small joke with you. I have indeed put away those spirit stones. However, this is a method to break the array. If I don't keep all the psyche stones, how can the Disha Lotus array be broken? We didn't stipulate beforehand that we are not allowed to take the psyche stones in the array disk. So, is it appropriate for you to ask me for them now? I think you should take a look at Panda's novel. Moreover, I have already restrained myself. Originally, I planned to keep the Disha Lotus array disk as well. Master Xuanji was almost angered to death by Hei Xinjiu's unreasonable arguments. According to what she said, he should thank her for not taking away the formation disk, right? He was about to fly into a rage when he heard Yun Chujio continue. Master Xuanji, as the saying goes, one must admit defeat when one is willing to bet. Are you going to make things difficult for this penniless monk because you've lost? If you can't afford to lose, just say it. If you admit that you can't afford to lose, he'll return the psychokinesis stone to you. The crowd that was watching the show started to clamor. Those stones were dug by lonely little Buddha with his own ability. Who told you bitter Zen sect to bury them so lightly? Serves you right. That's right. If you can't afford to lose, then just say that you can't afford to lose. The second round was already won by the Zen sect. If you insist on shamelessly calling it a draw, now you're bullying lonely little Buddha. Lonely little Buddha is too pitiful. Little lonely Buddha, don't be afraid, we all support you. No one can take away those psychokinesis stones. Master Xuanji was about to explode from anger. Why did these words go around and around, but the logic went to this lonely side? Also, could these onlookers be this lonely child? Why were they so biased towards him? When Master Liaowu saw that Master Xuanji was about to die from anger, he was secretly pleased. Damn it, it'll piss you off to death. His good disciple was indeed powerful. With just a few words, he had angered this old man to death. Although Master Liaowu was secretly happy, he said, Master Xuanji, what Lone said makes sense. The array board is also inside the array formation, so this matter is not Lone's fault. I think we should just forget about it. Master Xuanzi's eyes were bloodshot. He wanted to turn hostile, but in the end he said coldly, I didn't expect that the Zen sect would act like this. Well, just pretend that I didn't mention this matter. Seeing him like this, Master Liao's heart tightened. The Xianji didn't seem like someone who would swallow his anger, but he actually swallowed it. He probably had a backup plan. Yun Chujio had the same thought. She was indeed greedy, But she did this to test Xianji. Now that she looked at it, the bitter Zen sect definitely had a backup plan. However, no matter what backup plan he had, he would just deal with it as he saw fit. Seeing that both sides had no objections, Master Defang announced the final result of the competition. The Zen sect won 2-0. The 10,000 Buddha Dharma assembly was over. Naturally, the crowd would not stay on Mount Buddha. The Lan family, Mu family, and other major forces came over to exchange some pleasantries and left with their own people. The Zen sect people also left under the lead of Master Liaowu. Because the area near Mount Buddha was closed to flying, the crowd could only walk. Yun Chujio took out a voice transmission talisman as she walked. Yuanji, you did well. I'll give you the money to hire the childminders after I return to the Lan family. The corners of this fellow's mouth curled up slightly. Many of those onlookers were the childminders that she had asked Yuanji to hire. Otherwise, why would he speak up for her? Although Yuanji was a person of blue dregs, she didn't have her own people now, so she could only make do with it. Fortunately, after this matter was over, the old fox of the Lan family would assign 500 people to her. By then, it would be much more convenient to do things. Master Liaowu was afraid that the bitter Zen sect would set an ambush on the road, so his expression was somewhat solemn. After Yun Chujio put away the voice transmission talisman, she said with a smile, "Master, you don't have to worry. The bitter Zen sect will not set an ambush here. I think you should take a look at Panda's novel." Master Liaowu disagreed and said, "This is a no-fly zone. It's the best place to set an ambush. Master, think about it. This is the place where everyone must pass. Besides our Zen sect, there are also the Lan family and the Mu family. If the bitter Zen sect set an ambush here, wouldn't it offend all the forces? Unless they don't want to live anymore, they would set up an ambush here," said Yun Chujio. Master Liaowu was stunned. He thought what Yun Chujio said made sense and asked, "Then where do you think they would set up an ambush?" Yun Chujio took out the map, she pointed at a place and said, "There is an 80% chance that they would be here. Didn't you say that the bitter Zen sect and the Divine Devil Hall are in collusion? Therefore, the bitter Zen sect won't take action personally this time. The ones who set up an ambush here should be the people from the Divine Devil Hall. Lianxing Mountain Range? This is indeed a good place to set up an ambush. It forbids flying and the use of talismans. Moreover, the mountain is high and the forest is dense. It is also the place that we must pass when we return to the Zen sect," Master Lei said from the side. Master Liaowu's expression became more and more serious. He gathered a few elders to discuss countermeasures. There were only 3 ways to discuss this. The first way was to take a detour, but it would take about 5 days. Panda's novel. The third way was to force their way through without making any adjustments, but the risk was very high. Yun Chujio giggled. "We don't need these 3 methods. This penniless monk has a brilliant plan." Everyone looked at her. Ji Kong and Ji Su saw the smile on Yun Chujio's face and thought that this guy was going to play dirty again. Master Liaowu asked, "What brilliant plan?" "You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure."